Excel accounting practice problem, accounts receivable and subsidiary ledger. Get ready, because it's time to excel. Here we are in our Excel worksheet. In prior presentations, we put together the Excel worksheet from a blank sheet. Now we're going to be using it to record transactions, starting with our beginning balance transactions. 2 tabs on down below, example and practice. Example tab in essence being an answer key. Let's take a look at it now. Last time we put the beginning balance on for the inventory. Now we're focusing in on the accounts receivable, imagining that as we set up our books, we have the beginning balances here that we want to put into our system. We would like to do this in Excel in a similar way as we might imagine it would be put together in a database program to think what it would be doing, such as a QuickBooks type of program, and look at those accounts that have a bit more challenge to them. That's what we're going to be starting out with. This time the receivable, which is a little bit more challenging because as we put that on the books, we can't just put that number on the books because we also need to know who owes us the money. We need a subsidiary ledger broken out by customer. You can imagine when you put this into a software situation, if you were trying to put these as the beginning balance, it will have a similar situation, making it difficult for us to just enter a journal entry. And that is why we're going to do this one account at a time. And I'm just going to add, focusing in on the accounts receivable, provide the data necessary for the subsidiary ledger, which is going to be the breaking out that number by account. The other side then is going to go to the equity account at that point. This is going to be our breakout for our customers that we're going to be entering that owe us money. Notice we're just going to be representing the customers that owe us money for our practice problem here. If you were to enter this information into a database program or into your accounting system, you might try to add, more customers and get the contact information and so on and so forth. We're not going to be entering the contact information here because we're focused in on the accounting. I want to basically know the names at this point, and we're just going to show how the ending balances would be used. If I then add up these balances for the customer, that's going to tie out to that $20,500. And you can imagine if you enter this into the system, something like a QuickBooks system, you would also want to be providing things like the contact information, the billing information, and so on, so that you can contact these people, possibly send out a reminder to pay you, and so on. So now let's go back on over to our worksheet and see how this would be going into our worksheet. So I'm going to go to the practice tab. And I'm going to start off, we're going to put these all in as of 1/1 here. And we're not going to put anything to the income accounts because we're just looking at those beginning balance sheet accounts. We know that just from a journal entry standpoint, it's simple in that the accounts receivable needs to go up. That's where our focus is. It's going to go up by that $20,500. The other side is then going to go to the equity account in some way because everything else is going to wash out in essence to equity. So I'm going to then indent this one by going to the Home tab, Alignment and Indent. I'm going to put the negative of that 20,000. There is our debit and credit. Posting this out, I could post this to the accounts receivable right here in H5 equals that 20,500. Equity has something in it, so I'm going to double click on it, go to the end of it and say plus, and then point to that 20,500. And that'll take us back in balance here. So now we're back in balance. So easy to do within Excel, but you can see why the software, if you allow someone to do that in like a QuickBooks without giving a customer, then you're not going to have that subsidiary ledger that you would like to see in the system. So some accounting softwares will say, no, you can't do that with just a journal entry until you give me the data that I need in order for me to break that out with a subsidiary ledger. So let's construct the subsidiary ledger now. I'm going to go all the way. Well, let's post it first. Let's post it to the GL. So we're going to also post it to the GL. So the accounts receivable second account. So we got the checking account, then the accounts receivable. I'm in the cell 05. I'm going to put this in as of 1/1, the beginning of the period. I'm in cell P5. I'm going to say equals. Scroll to the left. We're going to pick up that 20,500 in accounts receivable. This breaks out the data by date, puts us out of balance. We also need to see it still though by customer. Other side's going to be going then to the equity account, which is way at the bottom. So I'm going to go all the way to the right. We got the assets in green, liabilities in orange, equity finally over here. And this is the second transaction in equity, 1/1. We are in cell AB18. I'm going to say equals. Scroll to the left till I hit the wall, all the way to the left, hitting the wall, up. And then we're going to pick up that equity account of the 20,500 and enter. So there we have it. This cell needs to be a little bit wider, it looks like. So I'm going to pull this cell a little bit to the right And same with this cell a little bit to the right. So we have enough information to see them. And so there we have it. So now that pulls down to the 23,396, which should show on the trial balance. That should put us back in balance here. So that puts us back in balance with the green zeros. And the trial balance has that 23,936. This color should be a light blue color. So I'm going to try to mirror this over here. And it's not light blue because I made them the bracketed numbers to be red. So possibly I want to remove that formatting. So maybe let's try to do it to all these numbers here. And I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to format that cell while we're here and go into the number group. And maybe I don't want it to be red. I'm just going to make it black and bracketed and then OK. And so now we got that nice blue instead of the red. So that's a preference. So either way will work, but I'm going to put it there. Okay, so there we have that. And so we're back in balance. Now we got to add the subsidiary ledger, breaking this information out by the customers that owe us money, because that's going to be the next question. I'm going to put that all the way to the right here. I'm going to put it before the inventory item. So it's going to be between the general ledger and then the inventory. So all these skinny cells right here, I'm going to try to make some space to put the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. So what I'd like to do that is try to copy the same formatting as I see possibly in a GL ledger. So maybe I'll go from the skinny cell here to right here and then let go. And I'm going to copy this because I'm going to do a similar kind of look and feel to it and copy that. And then I'm going to go into here and I'm going to try to paste it, but insert it. I'm not going to paste and overlap it, but instead right click and say I want to insert the copied cells. Insert the copied cells. So there we have it. So now it's not going to be a general ledger up top. I'm going to put, it's going to be like the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger, which in accounting software might be a report, right? It would be something like the accounts receivable, aging report or the accounts receivable summary and so on. So now I'd like to hide some cells so that I can see the data on the trial balance right next to it. So I'm going to put my cursor on AC. I'm going to scroll on to the left until we get to the skinny J, right click, and then hide that information, hide it. So now we've got our accounts receivable right next to the subsidiary ledger right next to here. And then I'm just going to name these items compared to the name that we have here. So here's our 4 customers, Anderson, Jones, and Smith. So I'm going to try to just copy these. You'll have to type them, but I'm going to copy them. And so we're going to say Anderson. I'm going to double click here and put that inside Anderson. And then the next one was Jones. So I'm going to say, all right, Jones. I'll put the next one down below is here. And I don't want anything in this cell. So then I'm going to say the next one is Smith. Smith is going to be then here. I'm going to double click and say Smith. And so there we have that. And so then I'm going to delete the 0 on this one and this one. So let's delete that and I'll just put it right in the beginning balance area, what the totals are. This one I'm going to leave blank for now because we don't have something there, but I'll leave it there so that we can add a customer later. So that'll be fine. And then we'll put the amounts, which was 5,000, 7,500, and 8,000. 5,000, 7,500, and 8. So I'm going to put that in here, 5,000, and I'm going to say this equals that 5,000, and then it'll pull on down. And then 7,500, I think it was for Jones, wasn't it? The next one was Jones. 7,500, that's for Jones, and then 8,000 is the last one. The last one's 8,000 we'll put up here, and then we got a blank space that we can use later. So now I want to give a check figure, So what I'll do now is this one's not a general ledger anymore. Deleting that. I want to cut this one and put it like over here so that I have some room to put the other data in place. Seems like it's too long now. What if I abbreviate it to AR? I'm just going to abbreviate to AR. Hopefully that doesn't mess anyone up. AR subledger. Okay, so now we can sum up the 4 customers, which should add up to that 20,500. So this is going to be the one at the bottom, the 5,000 plus this one down here, which is not currently adding up properly, so it's not going to work. So I'm going to fix that, plus this one, plus this one. So it doesn't add up to the 20,500 because this one needs to, I need to say equals to 8,000 to pull it down. This one needs to equal the 7,000. And this one I'll just say equals the 0. So now the beginning balances are pulling down. You might say you should have put it down here on the 1-1, but I'll keep it there. So we're going to keep it there, and that's going to be it. So now I'd like to compare this balance to what's on the trial balance to give me a quick check figure. So if I don't have the 2 items right next to each other, I can say this will be equal this minus that 20,500. That should always be 0. There's my check figure. I can then do my conditional formatting here to make it red and so on. I could just copy and paste. I could just do my paintbrushy. So I'll go here and go to the Home tab, Paintbrush, and then brush that conditional formatting. Not there. That's not where it goes. I'm going to do the paintbrush, and I'll put it right there. So then if it was like off by 2 or -2, it turns red, for example. And then I'll make this one the black and white again, black and white. So that's kind of the idea that you could see what would be positioning, and the same kind of idea that you would have to do. That's what the accounting software would be doing as well. And you want these 2 ledgers to basically tie out from the GL to the subsidiary ledger. So now I'm going to unhide these cells, going from I, selecting column I to AE. Right click and unhide those cells so they're back. Those cells are back now. So that's where we stand on this one, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of the beginning balances next time looking at the AP, which will be similar accounts payable.